What is up guys, it's Luck, YGO, and welcome back to the channel, and today guys I'm bringing you my Spellcasters deck profile. That's right guys, this deck is back at full force now that Breaker got released from the ban list alongside with some other techs and spices that this deck can now finally play, but I'll show you guys in a little bit. And guys, let me tell you, this deck has been feeling way better than it did before the ban list, mainly because of the tech that I play here and because of the fact of Breaker not being in the ban list anymore, which is very great. So guys, without any further ado, let's just get right into the deck profile. And like always, we start with the skill. It's Yugi and it's still ultimate wizardry. So guys, for those of you who don't know what this skill does, it basically allows you to, when you activate this skill, place one spell counter on each face-up spellcaster you control that can receive a spell counter. Also, once per turn, during your main phase you can place one spell counter on one spellcaster monster you control that you can also once again place a spell counter on. So this is it for the skill. It's very simple, but it does its job perfectly well. It works very well with Breaker, because this card with Breaker by themselves can get rid of your opponent's entire back row if they have nothing to respond to the Breaker. But anyway, this is it for the skill, and now we move on into the main deck. And we start the main deck with one copy of Magical Marionette, very good card. It gets a spell counter each time a spell is activated, and it gains 200 attack for each spell counter it has. You can also remove 2 spell counters from this card to target one monster on the field and destroy it, which is very strong in Speed Duel. So this card is very strong, but you only need to play it at one copy, since this is a tribute summon with level 5, but we do have ways to bring this card back from the graveyard with a trap I'll show you guys in a little bit. Moving on, we also play triple copies of the legendary Breaker the Magical Warrior, finally free from the ban list and looking better than ever. So guys, Breaker, when he's summoned, you can get a counter on him and he will gain 300 attack. You can then remove the counter from him and destroy one spell trap in the field. Keep in mind, it doesn't have to be your opponent's, it can actually be some of your spell traps if you need to. Also, with this skill, you can basically summon Breaker, get a counter from its effect, remove it, destroy one spell, then activate the skill, place one counter on him once again, activate the effect, remove, and then use the once per turn effect to place one more counter on Breaker, and if he has some more back row, you can just activate the Breaker again to destroy that spell trap, or just leave Breaker at 1900 as a beat stick. So guys, this card is insanely good in this deck. But anyway, moving on, we also play the one Maiden of the Macabre, which in my opinion is a very good card, because if your opponent doesn't know how to deal with it, it will eventually get too big for your opponent to deal with. Also guys, with the effect of your skill, you can once per turn place one more counter on Maiden, so every time you place a counter on her, she will get 200 attack, and every time she destroys the monster, she gets one extra counter, so per turn you can actually put 2 counters on her, making her stronger by 400 each turn it passes. And this is all for the spell counter monsters, and now we move on into the rest of the spellcasters. We play one Showsai, very big beat stick, that when sent to the graveyard you can target and banish one spell trap from your opponent's graveyard. Also, neither player can activate the effect of spell traps in the graveyard, and this effect sometimes comes up. It's rare, but sometimes it can actually be useful for you. But anyway, moving on, we also play double copies of Kaiko the Ghost Destroyer. This card is insanely good. It basically banishes monsters from your opponent's graveyard every time it inflicts battle damage to your opponent. Also, it doesn't allow your opponent to banish any cards from either graveyard. And this effect, guys, is insanely strong against decks like Fossils that need to banish from the graveyard in order to do their game plan. But anyway, moving on to the rest of the monsters that are not spellcasters, we play one Jinzo. And the reason of Jinzo being here is because we actually don't play that many traps, and it's also because of the secondary reason this deck feels so good right now, because Cyber Dragon got released from the ban list, and guys, it's a free special summon that can turn into a tribute for Jinzo or for your Magical Marionette, and it's also a very big beat stick, and not that many people are playing Cyber Dragon right now, but in my opinion this card is being slept on, so guys, I advise you playing it, at least in these kinds of decks that need tribute summons to do their game plan, or sometimes just need a bigger beat stick on the field, and this guy serves both purposes wonderfully well. Moving on, into the last 2 monsters we do play double Sphere Kuribo, just as a way to defend ourselves from your opponent's attacks. And this is it for the monsters, and now guys we move on into the spells. In the spells we play the one-off Offerings to the Doomed, just as a way to deal with your opponent's monsters. This deck sometimes has a hard time dealing with your opponent's field, and this card is here as limited one-off just to do that, which is to get rid of your opponent's most troublesome monsters. And speaking of limited cards, we also play in the limited 2-off the double copy of Allure of Darkness, which is a very good card to play in a deck if you play a lot of dark types, and this deck is full of them. So you just have the Sphere Kuribos, the Kaikos, the Chosai, we got the Maiden, the Breakers and the Marionette, so a lot of dark targets, all except the Cyber Dragon, so it's worth playing Allure of Darkness as a consistency card in this deck. Moving on, we also play one copy of Shrink, just as a battle threat that is not actually a trap, and we also play one copy of Night Beam, just as some added removal, since our deck is way bigger than 20 cards, so we have the 3 Breakers and just the 1 Night Beam to catch your opponents off guard. We also play 2 Book of Moon to fill up 2 of the 3 limited spots, And guys, in the past we could never play Book of Moon in this deck because of Breaker being around. Now that Breaker is no longer on the ban list, we can actually afford to play cards like Book of Moon, which is very cool in my opinion. And now guys, we move on to the traps, and we play the remainder 3 of limited cards, the Widespread Ruin, just as a way to deal with your opponent's monsters. Like I said guys, this deck has a tough time dealing with your opponent's monsters, so this is here to help you do just that. And guys, speaking of monster removal, we also play double copies of Dark Renewal. This card is not that easy to resolve actually. For me at least, it doesn't resolve that much because of its conditions. You need to have a Spellcaster on your field, and you need to have your opponent summon one monster, and then you can distribute one of your Spellcasters and one of their monsters and summon one Dark Spellcaster from your deck, hand or graveyard. Yes guys, you've heard it correctly, you can actually summon one Spellcaster from the graveyard, so this is one of the reasons we actually only need to play one copy of Magical Marionette, because if they get rid of the Magical Marionette, you can actually bring it back in the future with this trap. Moving on, we also play one copy of Waking the Dragon. I feel like this card is actually better this format, I don't know why, especially because Mystical's Best Life is not limited to 1, but I still think people are playing more removal in the forms of Galaxy Cyclone, Nobleman of Extermination, and Night Beams, so I feel like Waking the Dragon is a good card to play in this deck, and it's sometimes an auto-win button, so I'm trying it out for the time being. And finally guys, to round out the traps, we do play double copies of Windstorm of Etaqua, just as a very good battle trap, since all of the other traps got hit in the ban list 2-3, so guys, we actually have to get creative and play cards like this. But yeah, this is all for the main deck guys, and now I'm gonna show you the entire extra and side deck for you. And speaking of extra deck, we do play one copy of Arcana Knight Joker, one copy of Ojama King, one copy of Alligator Sword Dragon, Master of Oz, Cyber Blader, and Cyber End Dragon. Guys, keep in mind that these two are not the correct targets, I just do not have them at my hand at this moment, so I just had to improvise and put these two in. These should be the Destiny and Dragoon and the 1000 Dice Streak, so guys, if you guys do have them, play them instead of these two, because they are way better in my opinion. But yeah guys, this is all for the extra deck. Keep in mind, they are all targets for Waking the Dragon, so this is why we play these specific cards. And now we move on into the side deck. And in the side deck, we play the last copy of Kaigo the Ghost Destroyer. I'm sorry, I do not have the third secret, I have to get one eventually, but right now I do not have it. And this card is here just to double down on not allowing your opponent to banish and getting rid of monsters on your opponent's graveyard that your opponent might want to be in their graveyard. We also play one copy of Soul Release to do just that as well, to get rid of cards in your opponent's graveyard, and one Hammer Shot just as a way to double down on that monster removal that this deck struggles a little bit against sometimes. We also play one copy of Lost Twin. I feel like this card has gotten a little bit worse than the last ban list, I don't know why, but it feels that way to me, so I just kept down Lost Twins from 2 to 1 and I'm still trying it out and see how well it performs. And lastly, the new card on the block, we do play double copy of Magic Train, which I think is a very strong card, because I feel like people are playing a lot more spells right now in this format, and this is a very good way just to counteract that. Because guys, imagine they're playing Cyber Angels, they activate the Cyber Angel Ritual. You can activate this, and guys, they have to get rid of one of their spells to negate that, otherwise guys, you just negate their ritual spell and they are not able to do anything from there on out. So yeah guys, Magic Drain feels very good in this moment, so do not sleep on this card, play it if you have it, it's very good, I promise you will not regret it. So yeah guys, this is all for the deck profile, and now guys, I'm gonna show you the entire deck list laid out for you guys like always, so you guys can copy it for yourselves if you do want to do that. So here you guys have the entire main deck. We play 13 monsters, 7 spells and 6 traps. And yes guys, I did say that I actually don't play that many traps, but this is an actually average amount, but keep in mind that while the traps do not work for me, if we have Jinzo in the field, they actually do not work for your opponent as well, and they have to deal with your Jinzo. After they deal with your Jinzo, all of your traps will be live again, so they have to deal with that extra layer of disruption, so this is actually not that bad to run this amount of traps in this deck, as long as we just don't clog up on too many of them. And with a deck size of 26 cards, that will not happen that much, at least guys, I pray for that not to happen to me, because you never know, you might actually break on a lot of traps, but yeah, you get the point. Here you guys have the entire extra and side deck for you to take a look and copy it for yourselves as well. Keep in mind guys, once again, that these two should be the Destiny and Dragoon and the 1000 Dice Streak, but I do not have the cards at hand right now, so I just have to use these as some proxies, I guess, that could substitute for them. But anyway guys, this is it for today's deck profile, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me tell you, this deck feels way stronger than it did before, so I advise you guys trying this deck out, it's very cool, it's very fun to play, and it can be oppressive sometimes, especially guys when you clear their whole back row with your breakers and your skills effects. It's insane, it feels like it's the best deck ever, but that doesn't happen that much. But so yeah guys, anyway, Thanks again for watching the video, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did guys, feel free to leave a like down below, maybe subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this type of content and want to see more Speed Duel content, maybe even some TCG in the future, who knows. And guys, if you have a specific deck profile you'd like to see in the future, feel free to comment down below as I read all of your comments and am more than happy to try my best and bring you guys the decks you ask for down in the comments below. But yeah, once again guys, thanks for watching, like always, this is Lock by Geo, and I'll see you guys on the next video, out!